This is going to be the 9th in a series of tutorials that we are making sort of short focus tutorials on various topics associated with using the TaxonWorks interface. So today we're going to look at exporting lists of taxa and exporting formatted lists of references or sources as they're known in TaxonWorks. And again, here is the, here are some useful resources. There's a manual that we've worked on and a lot of us have put a fair amount of time into, and then there's also a checklist of activities associated with adding a new species name, not so relevant today. So here we are in the TaxonWorks interface, and so the first thing we're going to do is work with lists of taxa, and for that the filter nomenclature task is probably the most useful. So if you open that task, you see a bunch of different search fields over here on the left. So we can search for taxonomic names like the genus Signifera. Okay, so that returns any taxon with the name Signifera in it. Notice that some of these taxa are valid and some are invalid. And so I could narrow that down by going down here to the validity field. By selecting only valid, I would get names that are now being treated as valid. Okay, so that's one way to get a list. Notice we can search on authors. Gibson, very prolific guy. Probably should pick somebody like me. It wouldn't take it so long to load the references. So here's a list of taxa that Gary has described. Quite a long list. Impressive. We can search on a year. These are all the names that were created in 2021. Okay, so far we've got 12. That seems a little low, but maybe that's right. Now, another way to get a hierarchical list of taxa is to use the classification scope. So here we're looking for taxonomic names that are in the catalog. So I'm going to type in Signifority, doing my best to spell it correctly. And so see, it's looking in the tables to find the name Signifority. And it's for some reason way down here, Signifority Howard 1894. Okay, so that's going to search on that. We've already got only valid selected, I think. Yeah, validity only valid. But we want to see its descendants also. So we'll click descendants of any rank. So this will be any children of the name Signifority. And so here we have a list of all of the currently valid names in Signifority. See, validity is true, in other words, for each of these names. So it's not particularly intuitive the way it's output. You can sort on these columns, but notice that what it's actually doing is sorting on the species epithet. So Alorotis, Argentinus, Aspidioti, Ader, etc. The other thing that you may want to do to exclude ghosts, and this is a UCD only problem. See, here's the name Cartosers that occurs twice. One has an author and date, one does not. So this again is the problem that when a lot of host information came over from UCD London, it came over as strings, not necessarily as taxa. So, but we can exclude the ghosts by only picking names with an author. So if we redo the search, that should knock it down to, I think, about 112 names, something like that. There we go. Yeah. Okay. We can search on the author and year. These are all the species that Anna and I described in a recent paper, et cetera. These are all you can sort on any of these columns. You can also download a CSV file, which is quite useful. And so it's already created it. It's the file it's called nomenclature list CSV. And if I open that in Excel, notice that I've got a nice little Excel spreadsheet that I can work with for my own purposes. So that's quite useful. Okay, so that's the first set of things. The other thing I wanted to do, and I'm going to spend the rest of the tutorial on, is working with sources or references, publications for the most part. And for that, filter sources is your primary task. And notice that we get, again, we have a bunch of search fields here on the left. We can search for papers with incertity in the title. That's going to be quite a long list. So maybe we'll just look for papers from 2020 to 2021. So we limit the date. And there's a list of papers, with incertity in the title published in the last 2 years. Again, you can sort on these columns here. ID is a sort of internal TaxonWorks. It's the number of that particular source, the identifier. There are also you can we've talked about tags in earlier tutorials. Tags are ways of tagging things or for particular purposes, and we're using them a lot with sources in the UCD project. So these are all the tags that we've created in the UCD project. These are the tags that I have in my pinboard. So what if we go up here and we'll look for, instead of incertity, let's look for eulophidae. And we're going to look for sources that have not been curated, sources that are unprocessed, that have nomenclatural accent. And notice that these are Boolean search terms here. So you can do and or searches. It's quite powerful. So we're going to look for all papers with eulophidae in the title that are unprocessed and have nomenclatural actions in them. And there's 24. There they are. And again, we can download a CSV file here. This one's going to be called list. And if we open that in Excel, there they are. The columns are in kind of an odd order, but you can massage this any way you want. Here's the author, the journal, the publisher, titles way over here, etc. I'm sure you get the idea. So that's one way to download a list of sources. The other thing, though, that I want to do is download sources that are formatted for publication, kind of the next step. And so we're going to go back, and instead of these tags, see if I can remove it by hitting the little trash can. because I've done used the tag chapter Ulofity recently. It's in here in the quick list, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to pull up all of the chapters that we've tagged or flagged for the chapter on Ulofity in this book that we're working on. And that is, there we go, 60 records. There's different ways of formatting these. One way is to use this button, download formatted. Maybe the first thing we probably want to do is select all. I think it would download them all anyway. So we're going to download formatted, and then up here we get to pick a style. And there's something like 2,000 journal style sheets in here. So if you can find the one, for the journal you're submitting to, you're golden. So we're gonna use the one for Taxa. The journal is familiar to most of you, I'm sure. It takes a minute to find all the references and format them all. Okay, so here we have references formatted in the style of Taxa. Hopefully it's pretty close. Okay, and you can download this as a text file. You can download this as a bib text file, which we're going to do. And but notice that there is an issue here in that scientific names that are to be in italics are all enclosed by these italic operators. Okay, so if we download a bibtec file, that's what this one's called, bibliography bib. We'll open that in a text editor so you can have an idea of what these things look like. Huh. Not what I was expecting. Okay. We'll do it from here. We'll hit the bibtec button. Now that's a bibtec. That's the bibtec format for each of these 60 references. Now this you can cut and paste into a text file. You can download it, and from there you can import it into reference managers. So you can download that as a flat text file, and then read it into reference managers like Zotero or EndNote are the two that are probably most commonly used. So I've already done this. I've downloaded it. I did it before the session. I created a bibtec file for the Ulofity references, and I'm going to read that into. First, I'm going to read it into Zotero. Now, Zotero is relatively new, a free reference manager. So here I've opened the program Zotero now, and I've not used this very much. I have about 10,000 references in EndNote, but Zotero has got some distinct advantages, and particularly for this activity, we're going to import a file, in this case a bibtec file, and it's the Ulofity chapter bibtec file, and we're going to place those into a new collection over here into the left. And there we go. There's all the references. It's actually 108. I think I screwed up the search when I did it a little earlier. It must have been some other search term in there, because there's actually 108 of these that are tagged. Now, the next step though, so we're done with that. The next step though, is to parse the italics. And so if we select all the references and then right click or command click on them, create bibliography from items, and then we choose a style sheet. We have one in here that Rachel Winston has modified to cover the format for this book that we're working on. So we're going to use that. And notice that I've got the Zoe Taxa one in here. I think there's probably hundreds and hundreds of style sheets that you can load into here. Now you can save this as an RTF or copy to the clipboard. Either way, it's probably just as easy. We're gonna copy this to the clipboard, and then we'll just cut and paste it into a Microsoft Word file, and voila, there's all the references in the format that we're using for the book, C8 CABI format, and the italics have all been parsed. Loading a BibTeX file into EndNote's a little more complicated because, so we're going to close out Zotero now. Here is a text file that John Harity generated yesterday. You may have noticed that in the BibTeX file that we generated in TaxonWorks, I'll just do it again. See all these leading spaces here? EndNote barfs on those. It won't accept them. So you have to go through and strip them out. And I think, is that the only thing you need to do, John?
No, you have to get rid of all the italics marks.
Oh God. So that's a huge pain.
It's
So,
a search and replace thing.
Search and replace, yeah. So you have to get rid of all the italic marks, and then you've lost them. You've lost the italic. You're going to have to go back and redo that again. So this really is not, as convenient as the Zotero for making a formatted bibliography, but it will work. And so we can load this into EndNote, and you can load them into your EndNote library.